Well, President Obama is in. Now more states want out. Tens of thousands of people signing internet petitions pushing to have their states secede from the union. And it sounds like Ron Paul says, well, maybe they have a right to do it. The Texas Republican congressman on the phone now. Congressman, it sounds like you've really gotten behind this big time. You're the biggest name I've seen attached to this so far. Why do you think this is a good idea?
Well, I haven't taken the position that I think secession is a good idea, but the principle is a good idea. You know, I'm not calling for secession, but I think if the secession would have been very clear on the books, the government would be much smaller today because the federal government couldn't run roughshod over the people and over the states. So I think that principle is very important. I think when you can't leave, it's a very bad thing. That is the absence of freedom. You know, if you can't leave your job, you're called a slave. If you can't leave a prison, then if you can't leave a jail, you're a prisoner. And one of the statements that used to be made in a totalitarian country when they've lost their freedom is when you can't leave your country. You know, Woodrow Wilson actually used one of the major reasons to fight World War I was the right of self-determination. So that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in people being able to leave if they don't like it. And the founders more or less endorsed that idea. Jefferson has a great quote on why secession should be permissible. So it's not such an extreme idea, I don't think. I think it would have been a great thing, and I think we'd have had a lot more freedoms and a much smaller federal government if that principle had lasted.
What's that Jefferson quote, by the way?
Well, I don't have it right in front of me, but I can sure dig it up.
All right, well, we'll be looking for it next time. What do you make, though, that so many people actually do like this idea, that so many people are this frustrated with this country and with this government? What does that say about the state of America?
Well, I think I think the justification is there. It means that we have a mess and that they no longer can depend on the federal government to deliver. And that's when, you know, the major crisis hits, when there's no more confidence that the dollars will buy anything and the entitlements won't come. This whole system falls apart. And that is the reason why I think local government and independent government is very, very important. But it tells you that the people think this thing is a real mess, and they're right about it. I think we're only at the beginning of the unwinding of the problems that we've had building for so many decades. So the working out of this is going to take a while. So
Representative Paul, everyone's still doing Monday morning quarterbacking, the postmortem, if you will, on the election. What was it about Mitt Romney that, I mean, real quickly, you know, you really weren't a fan. You didn't get behind him at all. You have a ton of loyal followers. Perhaps, you know, if you'd have thrown your weight behind him, perhaps he could have won this thing.
I doubt that, because I don't think one person can carry votes. Besides, I would have been the one that lost credibility because although I got along quite well on a personal basis with Governor Romney, we didn't have much in agreement, you know, on policy. When you look at the foreign policy and the spending, he wanted to spend $2 trillion more on the military, and he was not much into civil liberties at all. He was a strong protectionist. I mean, bashing China and putting on sanctions. Sanctions to me are acts of war. So I always felt mixed feelings because I sort of liked him, and our families got along real well, but there wasn't much that we agreed with. So if all of a sudden I say, oh, I've disagreed with everything he says practically, but now I say, okay, everybody vote for him, well, nobody would have understood that.
I got to tell you, that's one of the reasons you have such an amazing loyal following. And I do want to ask real quick, it feels like in this postmortem that the Republican Party may be coming to an epiphany that you had a lot of things right, especially on social issues in this country. I mean, you think maybe the GOP is going to lean in your direction going forward?
Well, let's hope so. I know that they at least have a more open mind about looking at the Federal Reserve, you know, and at the last minute there they started talking about, well, maybe the Fed is too powerful. Maybe they print too much money and they can do too much unsupervised. So, yes, I think they will, but I think it won't come quickly, and that's why I'm so delighted to go to the college campuses, because the young people seem to have a much more open mind. And I think it usually takes, you know, a while to change the course of a country. But I think, as we were just talking about, this economy is going to get a lot worse. They're going to have to look for something. And I think some of the ideas that I've talked about became more credible after the recession hit, the major crisis 5 years ago, because I had talked so much about financial bubbles and the housing bubble.
A lot of people say you predicted all of this. Now, I said that was going to be the last one, but I do have to ask about Rand Paul expressing perhaps some interest in running. What do you make of it? You're very popular amongst young people. He's a fresh voice and a kind of person that a lot of people are looking perhaps to come in. Are you excited about the prospect?
Well, it certainly would be exciting. It just happens that he and I have not had a conversation on this, so it seems like 4 years a long way off. The election is over. When is the next election going to start? The next day.
These days, the election cycle never stops these days. You know that. Representative Ron Paul, I got to tell you, I've learned so much from you personally over the last several years. There's a reason you're a legend amongst people who follow you. I thank you for taking the time out.
Thanks for having me on, Charles.
We'll
Good to be with you. Bye-bye.
Now, with the economy looking like an ugly doll, a union battle that's getting even uglier, Toys R Us CEO Jerry Storks isn't playing around. He's actually here next.